believe your greatest accomplishment is the greatest race car drivers to ever live. Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt Sr. They respect you like Aretha Franklin, capital Respect. Mark, you got to know that everybody looks at you with just, they're just like, oh my God, Mark Martin. When did you know that was happening? Is there a span of 5 years? Was it 1999? Tell me about this respect that you definitely deserve.
I think it all starts back from, 1977 when Rusty and I were racing and learning how to race with Dick Trickle and Bob Sineker and Tom Refner and some of the legendary short track racers, learning the code, adhering to the code, racing with them and working. And respect is just not something that you can't buy it, and you can't force it. You can't make anybody do that.
You don't get it because you win. You get it because you do it proper. Is that right?
I think that respect comes through time, and you earn it.
I agree.
And it takes a long time, to build that, and that the respect that I have been given by the competitors has been, the crown jewel of my career, and it took a long time to build that to where it is today.
Yeah, so glad to hear you say that. You know that some people like to go no, but Mark, you and I know that in the day, 1970s through the 80s, the great state of Wisconsin was the epicenter of asphalt short track racing, and they would paint a white line around the middle of the racetrack, and if somebody was on your outside and you moved up into that outer lane, they would black flag you. You and I know that, the great Dale Sr. also said, give me a lane. Give me a lane. And Mark, I know that you always gave another racer a lane to race you.
Well, that was part of the culture. We were just very sportsmanlike. We believed in may the best man win. We competed fiercely.
Yes.
But there wasn't any underhanded, shenanigans pulled. It was, may the best man win today. And if I got beat, I went straight to the shop. And I learned at an early age when I was racing against Wayne Brooks, and then later Larry Carson, and then later Larry Phillips, and then later Dick Trickle, and then later Dale Earnhardt.
Wow.
That I could win, I could beat them if I made my car good enough. And if I didn't, I wouldn't. I never considered out driving those guys. I just tried to beat them, and I had to beat them with a better car. And that's where I kept my focus all through my career, was on the vehicle.
Mark, I love that conversation because, I grew up with you and Rusty and Mark Martin. And that's one thing that Rusty, my brother, pounded into my head was quit putting so much pressure on your ability as a driver. When we were kids, we went to the local go-kart track and we'd watch those go-kart go around. And we always wanted the fastest go-kart. We didn't say, put me on the slowest one. So it was you and Rusty and Larry Phillips that said, make your car faster. So I guess the question is, do you feel like some of these kids nowadays, not that there's anything wrong with anybody, do you think maybe people lost focus on the speed of the car?
Well, I mean, it's just a different age and a different era. And these kids come up, we didn't have any video games to play or iRacing or anything like that, simulation of any sort. So these guys, from really little kids start racing cars, even though it's simulated. Um, and they evolve right into the driver's seat of a race car. And that's different. And it's not all bad. I
Sure.
might have been a better driver if I would have put a little bit of emphasis on myself, but I never thought about it. I mean, I just did what I did and I drove like I drove and I tried to learn and improve. But who knows if I would have studied the craft even harder than I did, in a similar way that I did the car side of it and the hardware side of it. Who knows? It could have even possibly been better. But today, most drivers don't know anything about their cars, and that's okay. I mean, there's engineers and there's a team of people behind them to make them go. When you and I got started racing,
It was us.
it was us. It was up to us. There was
Yep.
nobody. There was nobody around us that was more knowledgeable about those cars than we were.
I always said all
So,
you needed was somebody to tell Mark Martin when to pit. He'd set his own race car up.
well, I mean, you too. You worked on race cars way before you ever started racing, Kenny, and that's just that's just the part of it. We studied the cars, and we knew that if we made our cars better, heck, man, I paid attention. You'd have a guy who ran in the back all the time, and all of a sudden he's running mid pack, and I'd ease over there and go around his car. Not that he would ever outrun me, but he's done something to improve his deal. Let me see what that is. And those are secrets now, that you can't. It's much more difficult to look at other people's stuff as it was, when we came up. Hey, Rusty and I would tell each other what we had in our cars all the way through his final year, and in 85. I mean, 05, 85, 05.
Yeah.
Rusty's last year, 05 or 06.
I forgot to.
Yeah, I think it's 05.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I think it was 2005. So, all through our careers, if we weren't running worth a damn, we could go see each other and say, look, man, I ain't running worth a damn. What
And
do you
you weren't
got?
even teammates.
What do you got?
Yeah.
And Rusty would always tell me, and I would always tell
driving for
him.
Roush, he's driving for Penske, and you're sharing exact truth information.
Yeah. And the thing about my relationship with Rusty was so cool because I came to Lake Hill Speedway.
Yeah, Valley Park, Missouri.
Yeah, in 77,
Yeah, I remember.
I think it was. I was
Yep.
going somewhere,
And
and
you
I
stopped.
stopped in there to watch him race, and he was so damn excited.
Oh, we all were. Mark Martin it was there. It shocked the whole racetrack.
Well, this guy came over and said, Rusty, how much toe out you run? He said, I run 5/8 in.
What in the world?
Of course he was lying to the guy. But he never lied to me.
Yeah.
Ever. So that was a really strong bond because I appreciated that. That night he was running second to Gettelmeyer, and
Len Gettelmeyer.
yeah, he spun his ass out to get
You
the
remember
win.
that damn name? Rusty spun Len out because you were there. He wanted
That's
to
exactly
impress you.
right.
But he spun Len out, and you're like, what'd you do that for?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Mark, listen, this is the Kenny conversation. It's not an interview. We're discussing. So you kind of led me in this area. There's no doubt in my mind that you were in my era. I was born in 1963. You were the first driver I ever witnessed in my life to come along at like 12, 14 years old. You were running Artco and ASA at 15 years old and winning the biggest races of all time. What was it like for you to be a child and winning these 400 lap races. What do you remember about that?
Well, to get accurate, dead on accurate, I was running ArtGo races at 18,
18.
but I was 110 pounds and looked 10.
You did.
And that was 18 was a big, big, big deal
Back then.
back then. It's old now, but back then it was, I mean, people were losing their mind because this kid, was racing with these hot dogs, and every once in a while we beat him. We beat Larry several times at Springfield at the fairgrounds, which was a huge deal.
I was there.
Rusty beat us, Larry and I, a few times as well. Larry got his share as well, but that's kind of where it started. When I was able to beat Larry at Springfield, that was a big deal. In '76, I was still running my late model and dirt car, and I went to Bolivar for a big race, and they had a bounty on Ken Essery.
Yellow
And
55.
yes, sir. And I had to make my way into the race through the C, then the B, then the A. And I didn't know how to run dry slick because it was mud tracks and clay back where I came from. And we started the back. I hugged the bottom. There's moisture there. Everybody's running the black. I just passing cars. When the checkered flag came out, I didn't even know I won.
Oh my, you were so focused.
Yeah, I won the race. And Ken, I think, from looking back on it, I think Ken runs second. But, there were goals. There were legends in that race. And I was 17 years old and didn't have a clue.
Good thing you didn't know who they were.
I hardly
I think
knew
that's a
who.
good thing.
Yeah, I had heard of Ken Essery. But anyway, that was a huge win in my career. And then the following year, we managed to beat Larry a few times, and then we, and I believe it's around September. They had the National Short Track Championship at Rockford, Illinois, and we thought, well, let's go from Batesville up to the National Short Track Championship. We'll get to race with the greatest in the nation.
And you did.
And we set second fast time, Trickle's fast time. We were second fast time, and all the legends. I look back, that's 1977. All the legends were there. All the short track legends were there. And I had some help in the inverted 12 cars, the 200 lapper. And I had some help in the race. Some of a few of the hot dogs had some problems, but we won that race, and we had no idea. And if you want to know what the biggest win of my career is, that contends for the biggest win of my career. It was unbelievable. We had no idea we could do something like that. And so, that just, that sort of went along with picking up other wins and, winning ASA races. It was 78 before I won ASA race. I won the championship too in 78 at 19 years old. And that might as well have been 12, back then. People, and all of that stuff just continued to springboard me toward NASCAR. And, in 1980, we won our third ASA championship in a row and had the most incredible season you could have ever had with a revolutionary car that Ray Dillon and I designed together that everybody had to have. I mean, your brother had to buy one. Dick Trickle had to buy,
I got one in 1986. They're the best.
I mean, everybody had to have one. It was but anyway, after that year, it was like, dude, it's time to make the spring, it's time to take the steps. So we just, it was like climbing a ladder or climbing a set of stairs. It was one rung at a time, just like the respect. It was gained just, an ounce at a time until it finally added up to, a pound.